Behind the Scam, the show dedicated to social engineering at the bar and on the street. Howdy, I'm your host, Brian Brushwood. This week, we have a question from this guy who says, Brian, I want to know how to get started booking my first show. And that's a very good question, to which I say it's complicated. By which I mean, like, there are some people who are just, they study their craft, they get good, and all of a sudden they get their big break, and somebody discovers them and says, hey, why don't you do this gig? And they do the gig, and they go on to be famous and amazing and heroic, and that story is very likely a lie. In reality, the truth is probably closer to what I experienced. About 20 years ago, I read an article written by Penn or Teller, I think it was Penn, in Magic Magazine, where they talk about the idea of flight time. And the way they explained it was they said, when a pilot goes to Delta and says, I want to fly your planes, they don't say, have you ever had an engine go out in mid-flight? They don't say, have you ever had your plane be struck by lightning? They don't say, have you ever had somebody have a heart attack in the middle of the flight? They ask one question. They say, how many flight hours have you logged? Because if somebody has logged 10,000 hours in flight, then they've experienced everything they need to know in order to fly for Delta Airlines, right? So the same thing is true for your performance. If you want to go professional or you just want to go in front of an audience, all you need is flight time. And the way you get flight time is by performing for free. I know it doesn't sound very sexy, but that is the way it all gets started. When I quit my day job, I said, what is it that I want to do? I want to get paid to do magic for audiences. What is the kind of thing I need to have done in order to accomplish that? And I said, I need to be the kind of guy who always has a show going on. Anytime somebody says, what are you up to? I need to say, well, I got this show coming up. And it didn't matter whether it was paying or not. I drove 3.5 hours across the state in order to go perform a show for free in Houston, just so I could turn around and come home, just so I could say that I had it to do. And then it was done. I could say I did it. Same thing happened again when it came to performing on the internet. A lot of people don't know this, but the whole reason Scam School came about was because I had a failed television pilot with Court TV about 8 years ago. I pitched a show about scams and cons where we wanted to get in the field. We wanted to show how these street cons and scams were done. And the person who brought me in thought it was great, wanted to bust on pseudoscience and the paranormal. But the person who inherited the project said that, you know what? I don't really get what this is all about. But I do know that our audience is older, so comb your hair and put on this sweater. And they got something very neutral and bland, and it's not a surprise that they passed on it. But from that, I learned a very important lesson. I learned that the entire process forward, I knew that they were making bad decisions. But I couldn't say no because they were the experts. I had no experience at television. So after the whole experience, I was left super bitter and angry and jaded at television. But I knew I wanted to host a show. So I made a list. What are the things I need to have done in order to host a show? And the number one item on my list was I need to have already hosted a show. Of course, nobody was knocking on my door asking me to host a show. The only thing I had was a full schedule where I was going to be traveling all over the United States. I had a couple of cheap cameras and I had a sidekick who was a lot of fun. So I decided, well, screw it. I'm just, YouTube is brand new. I'm just going to decide that I have a show. So I created a show called Brian Brushwood on the Road. It was 23 vignettes that we created. They're all still up at BBOTR, which I'm sure is right down there somewhere. Each one of them a little slice of life from what it's like to be a touring magician on the road. During that year, even though nobody watched any of these shows, like I think the most popular one has 6,000 views, during this time, I figured out how to talk to the camera, how to edit, how to tell stories, how to pause and restart so that editing is easier for other people. So that by the time I pitched Scam School to Revision 3, I had a year's worth of clips to pull from. Everything from me signing a card in tattoo form on a random volunteer to falling through the ceiling at a random hotel. These were the stories that looked good on film that nobody paid me for. I did it just because I wanted to have the experience, and I was able to use those to get Revision 3 to believe that I had what it took in order to host a show. So all of this is to say, if you want to book a gig, start doing it for free. Get the experience that you could draw on. If you do enough free close-up performances, if you have enough events that you show up and you just perform for, sooner or later, somebody's going to ask you for your business card. And by the way, have a business card. Be ready for that. Then when it happens, you're able to move into the professional side of things. Second question comes from this guy. Hey, Brian, when are you going to be in blank? And I say blank instead of New South Wales or New Zealand or Indonesia or Ohio or California. And the answer is when you bring me there. Here's the thing. Look, once upon a time, I made my full-time living just doing full-time shows, touring all across the United States. I headlined 3 times at Universal Orlando. I performed at over 2,000 colleges nationwide. It's a really, really good stage show. But once I started doing Scam School, I didn't have time to promote. I used to do things like direct marketing. I used to make cold calls. I used to buy ads. I used to make viral videos. All of these things I'll explain to you guys in the future. But the point is, I've gotten too busy to do these things. Now, I love traveling. I love going out and performing for you guys. But I don't have the time that it takes to market myself anymore. And that is why I'm relying on you guys. Here's the thing. If you want me to perform in your hometown, we have constructed a whole program for what it takes to get me out to your thing, whether it's a convention, whether it's at your college, whether it's at your magic group, whether it's you name it, whatever your civic circle is, whatever it is your corporate event is, there's a way to get me out there. You just have to get creative with me and figure that out. My email is brian@schwood.com. And if you want to bring me to your event, if you want to bring me to your hometown, tell me what you got and we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But until then, check out this little quick video giving you step-by-step instructions to how I can join you in person. Hey guys, how would you like for me to come in person and perform for you live in your hometown? Believe it or not, it's easier than you think. Here's all you have to do. If you go to college, find out who's in charge of student activities on your campus and point them to my website at schwood.com, where they can check out the 5-minute demo reel and get an idea of what's in the show. These are the people whose job it is to bring events just like me to campus all year round. If you're in high school, find out who's in charge of proms or graduation night parties. I work a lot of those and I'd love to work yours. If you work in a corporation, find out who's in charge of holiday planning parties and point them to the website. Then have them contact me to book a date. And finally, if you're some crazy millionaire, just call me directly. I'm on my way. And of course, you may just get lucky. I may already be headed to your town, in which case sign up for email updates at schwood.com and follow my Twitter feed where I post my schedule regularly. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you in person real soon. All right, gang, don't forget that all of these Behind the Scam episodes are written by you, so hit me up on social media, twitter.com/schwood, facebook.com/schwood, google.com/+schwood. I really will respond to all of them right here on the show. Don't forget to send me your questions, and you guys go out there and kick more ass and make more magic for the world. More wonder. That's what we all need. We need wonder. Speaking of wonder, I'm going to go watch Tony Wonder on Arrested Development. That was pretty amazing when they did that.